but some of these,
I mean, the majority of these streets really need to be fixed, but, you know, it's just coming back to TxDOT being responsible for their part. And that's something that, because we're gonna fix it and then
yeah.
it's gonna go back to the same way, and, you know.
A lot of it, we think it might be the weather and the rain and the storm runoff, but a lot of it, it's the heavy traffic during peanut season that's destroying these roads. Rest assured that the mixture we're using is a type D, so it's rated for heavy traffic. So, and that's been proven here at the dollar store, because we got 18 meters going in and out all day, every day. So, and it's held up pretty good, so.
I think on that, the same type of, I just have to mention, what is the other road that we use this material? What is the one that we ran?
South Willow,
South Willow, that's number
2.
three. South Willow, West Comali,
Yeah, 3.
that was the one that we used, no, it's more expensive. I mean, it costs more money to do this type of improvement.
And we do have grants, right, that we're waiting on for, like, for Sixth Street.
Part of what you can, again, part of what we're talking about is some of the grant funding, the funding we should be receiving is from the GLO. Again, I say that with a little reservation. The GLO is the General Land Office, and they're providing grants for drainage, okay? Now, with that drainage, you could probably include roads that are all part of the drainage system. But we would have to, again, I guess on that end, depending on what we repair as far as drainage, there may be a road included. I mean, that's just nature. But there is no other grant funding that I'm aware of that, aside from that we would apply for, or gonna receive.
And so, what exactly are y'all gonna do to it? I mean, you're not gonna just patch it, right?
No,
Because,
it's a fully reconstructed,
Okay.
project here. We're taking everything that's old
Hang on a
and
second.
replacing it with brand new substructure.
okay.
Yeah, so it's complete, it'll be a way better road than what was done 20, 30 years ago.
Okay, yeah, cause that,
Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
so have we looked into the infrastructure down this street? Do we know how old it is? Have we had any issues there that maybe we should, do some, improvements before we lay this road down? Just to make sure that we don't go through this, nicely paved road and then 3 months down the road, it could happen either way, but a main brake line because the line is 30 years old or 20 years old, whatever the case may be.
It's a lot older than that, but basically the infrastructure, it's all the same age. I mean, it's all over town, they're about the same age, mid-80s. The difference is here, we did our history check, and then the majority was sewer problems, and they run on the alleys. So that's basically where our problem is.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the only water issue we had was maybe a hydrant, a slow hydrant, stuff like that, a clogged hydrant or something, but nothing below ground.
Because doesn't the gas run through the alleys on that side of town as well?
It does, yes, sir.
But that's not the same.
Okay, so as far as the infrastructure, we're pretty good on it. It's just maybe the one hydrant leak that we had in the past.
That's correct.
I would say this, Council,
Oh,
just to, for clarity's sake, is with any street that we repair, we don't repair the infrastructure, there is a risk. Bottom line, there's a risk, because a lot of this infrastructure, I think Hector's being nice and saying it's from the 1980s. Maybe he's right, but I would say it's probably more 60s, 50s, but I'll leave it at that. But in saying that, there is a risk with any road repair, but the question then becomes, it's a matter of dollars, is do you not make any repairs and just let things as they are? As whenever the bond issuance, I think was issued in 2016, when you look at it, $8.6 million doesn't get you too far when you start repairing everything under the ground. That's just the nature of the beast. It's not a knock on any particular project or anything, but that's the reality.
And council, as this list was put together, those were the items that were addressed, is the status of the road, how bad it is, the amount of traffic that it gets, and the infrastructure underneath it. Fred, am I correct in that? And those are the things that all weighed into, okay, is this a worthy road? Because that is the last thing I think all of us want to do, is spend $140,000 and then have to cut it and pipe. It can happen, but we don't want to knowingly do that. problem there. And so,
Fred, I thought we had given an updated list of streets,
No,
not too
sir.
long ago.
No, I don't think
this
so.
this is the list that I've always been familiar with
This is
since
it,
I've been here.
Mayor.
And
Well, we
this
would
is
like
since
to-
back in 2020?
Yeah, cause it says in conjunction with members of 2020.
It started in 2020 and then it rolled over into the following year and then it,
It was been a constant, I think we went 2 or 3 times where I think we made recommendations and the council came and made some adjustments and then we made some adjustments and then finally that came to,
And we have, I mean, we did a road ourselves, West San Antonio, and then the county helped us with
South Moreno.
South Moreno, and then we did the one behind the lumberyard, and then we did West Comal, and Montes is the one that did the one behind the lumberyard, and, no, West, or South Willow,
Top Willow, yeah.
and did a really good job. If you guys get a chance, drive those roads, and you can see they're really, really substantial. So, council, I mean, Hector, I'd ask you, we both, I mean, you guys can vision Gross and Carter, the highway, the Tech Dot highway is 3 or 4 feet higher, and then they, maybe at least that, and then it goes down into both those roads. It would be a major, amount of work from Tech Dot to get that built up, I guess, to where it didn't run, or is it more of a drainage
Well-
thing or a build-up thing?
We, the city, we don't have that type of equipment that would be able to take on a project of that nature. We just don't have it. I don't know how, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it would take design, cause you gotta, the problem is the water's not traveling from one side to the other. It's just pooling right there. And whatever the case may be up ahead, I don't know, but we don't have that type of equipment. It takes some special equipment, special excavators and, you know, design, engineering. The only thing we can do is crown the road, we can crown it one way. Right now, I believe that's the problem with the road that we're taking on now, is that the crowning is more level now from all that traffic, heavy traffic. So now it's an even road, so all it does is just go straight to that hole, and it just pools there. And you got, I believe it's a little bit over a foot deep at some points, so at some parts, so. So the key is to crown it back to where it faces south, so it runs down the side streets, down towards Gross Street, and then hits that Tech-Stop watershed where they got there, so.
I just see that there's some streets that are worse than some
Oh,
of
yeah,
these streets.
there's a lot of them.
It's, I think it's something that we wanna bring back.
yeah, we're gonna revisit.
Yeah.
We'll-
This
we'll-
has been since
And
2020.
we have our own list too, just so y'all know, just in case. We have our own list, and then we can provide it.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
can we have a, I mean,
Yeah, we can get
see
it.
that.
Council, we've got, what we do is we have a motion and a second on the table, and I'll call for a vote. And if you care to, bring this back and let us look at another one, when it calls for a vote, just, die for a lack of a, if you care to do that, and then we can look at, we can address this again. So is there any other questions? Here, we've got a motion and a second. May I have a show of hands, all in favor of this, the 7C and 7D? Asking again, may I have a show of hands? We do have,
I,
okay, so that's, you're voting for it.
I,
You're
For it.
voting to pave the road.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, against? 1. Okay, motion passes. We will be paving, Carter. All right, very good, thank you guys. Okay, we don't have an executive session.
Mayor, I do have Rachel, she's raised her hand. Rachel, I didn't know.
Oh, Rachel,
She
I'm
said her
sorry,
vote.
were you
She
there?
voted. She voted.
How
Was
did
that
you
her
vote?
voting yes?
Yeah.
4.
You voted
For?
for, okay, very good, we've got that. All right, council, there is no executive session. Open session for executive is none, there's general announcements. Is there any general announcements? Fred?
See you
TM.
Tuesday.
TML?
TML. Yeah, when do you have to know?
Yeah, I have to,
I prefer to know no later than tomorrow because I have to register everyone for TML on the 11th. And I have to get IDs coordinated, I have to see who's gonna be in what room, what hotel, all of
Okay,
that stuff.
where and when?
Wait, yeah. It is, in Dallas, Texas, and it is the first week of, I think it's the 3rd through the 6th, I believe.
of
October.
the first week of October,
Correct.
a Monday through a Friday.
I believe it's a Tuesday through a Friday.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, and so that is, and that'll be on next year's budget. And so, okay, that's
So it's,
one of the things that Fred addressed is, I think if you have a desire to go, get that information to Crystal, and then we'll discuss. But you've got to make the reservations this week, is that correct?
correct, yes, sir, on the 11th. So I can send a group text, take a poll, so I have it all centralized to
Okay.
who wants to and who is not.
What were the dates again, Crystal? October what?
I believe it's the 3rd through the 6th.
Well, let me ask you
Mayor,
this, let me ask you this, it would, do we pay for that on this year's budget?
The 3rd through the 6th.
It is, I wanna say that the dollars are, cause she reserves them, I don't know when they hit the credit cards and all, that's what.
The registration, regular registration is 400. I have a brunch for 45 and a lunch for 65. That hits the card immediately as I process it. Key bookings, they do take a portion, not the entire amount for the room deposit,
Okay, so it would be on this year's budget,
partially.
partially, and do we have,
Council, there's, as far as budget, there's definitely needs to be some discussion as far as I mentioned, we are over budget on travel. So
okay.
it is something that needs to be considered, preferably, again, we don't have an action item, I know that, but it is something.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that if you don't reserve those rooms on the 11th, you're not gonna get anywhere close to the,
So, I think part of that is knowing that we're over budget, one, and then two is again, this delegation that we decide to do something to go to Washington DC that needs to be considered, as far as the expense.
Yeah, Councilman Leal, go ahead.
I just want to just emphasize how beneficial the trip to Washington was. I went to an event about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and Minister Tony Gonzalez, Congressman, he recognized who I was and where I was from.
Good job.
So, I mean, if we want to get those earmarks, definitely that's something that I think is beneficial, so we can get some funds going to Pearsall, especially if they know who we are.
Very well, yep. So, I guess we're in a conundrum.
Well, if we do not hit the TML, then are we able to?
Preferably to do one or the other. Again, I think you have some, I think what we did this year, the folks that were up for election didn't go, to the Washington trip. If the council wants to continue to do that, folks, of course, it's 2 years till anybody's up for reelection, but in saying that, for those folks that didn't attend, maybe, that were on the council, maybe that's something that you may wanna consider. I don't wanna make that decision for, for you.
But can we take more than 2 now to Washington if we
Just
do not attend?
recognize the travel expense, I'm sure you could,
And it's just a matter of setting a budget. Let me ask you, has everybody been to TML? Has everybody here has been to a TML, okay? I've been, it was beneficial, it's a very worthy thing, but, this may be a better opportunity if we can send, 4 maybe to Washington versus 7 or 8 to TML, that may produce more fruit.
Yeah.
So I'm
Because
not
over there, at
calling,
least you get to speak to these people, and you get to, they get to hear your feedback on what is needed.
maybe we do a combination of 4 and 4, or 4 of y'all maybe wanna do a TML the next year and switch it off and then do the other 4. I mean, that may be the best.
and doing that now, no, we just have to budget that. Okay, we have to prepare that.
What I can do, the agenda's already out, so I can email them
The agenda for.
for TML for each of the
Okay.
days, so I can do that, so you can
so
review it and see who
I'm
we
just
wanna
gonna
go
take the
with.
liberty to say, council will have 4 spots at TML and 4 spots at Washington DC, and then you guys back me up at budget time.
Yeah.
And I would be fair to say that newly elected
Mayor,
should be
Hey.
the ones attending TML.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mayor,
yes.
can we just give an option, those who wanna go to TML, go to TML, those who want,
Yeah.
they can just pick one or the other?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm newly elected, but I
That- I
voted for
mean-
TML, so it's like Washington would be
I review Washington.
over TML any day.
yeah. I think so, and then if we just have 2 that wanna go to TML, we'll send 2 to TML, and
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll send 6 to Washington, but we might send 4. But that's the other thing, we have 2
Yeah, I
years.
mean,
We have 2 years. We have this year and next year.
yeah. I say, because, I mean, if you wanna go to TML, that's fine, but if you wanna go to Washington and give the option, I think the more the merrier going to Washington, because you could ask Sonia, be my witness, and it really sets a statement. And the only thing that you gotta consider is it's a lot of walking. So if you don't like to walk, I would not recommend Washington.
We're all gonna, what are those things called? They have the 2 wheels on them? Yeah, we're all gonna-
Mayor, we'll give you, did you have a cost estimate, Crystal, did you have one, did we have one for that, for both trips?
I did one for TML.
We'll
I
give you a
did.
cost estimate, for the council's aware of what the costs are for both, so you'll have an idea of what the total cost is,
Yeah.
for budget purposes.
But emphasis is gonna be on the Washington trip. Is that consensus? We're not voting on anything, but maybe a show, a show of support on it? Yeah, okay, I'm seeing it. All right. Well, we'll see. We maybe do 1 or 2 to TML and then whatever we can to Washington. Okay, we'll set, Fred will send out a text tomorrow to all council members, and those aren't here can maybe make a statement. All right, well, Councilman Leal, this is the moment you typically shine.
I make motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion, we have a second.
Second.
There's 3 or 4 of them, we'll take them all. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you guys for coming.